Aloha from Hawaii, the Big Island. A wee bit of a Scottish flavor tonight. This is called a skin dew. Hopefully I pronounce it right. Maybe somebody from Scotland can correct me if I got it wrong. I believe it's called the skin dew. Scottish knife. I don't know if the original medieval versions were double-edged, but this one is more legal in the U.S. It's single-edged, but it's got a nice spear point, buffalo horn, with brass pins, lanyard hole, and got a few Scottish things to talk about that have to do with the Second Amendment. It does seem that people are coming for the guns, doesn't it, lately? They want them guns. Well, I don't think they're going to get them, but anyway, in the meantime, I got this for, I think, 20 bucks or so. I thought it was a pretty good deal. I mean, here is what in the Conan the Barbarian, the father of Conan, says, things you cannot trust are men, women, and beasts, but this you can trust. And so it doesn't have to be a very expensive blade. I have knives that cost a lot more, but it's pretty sharp. It's got a nice spear point. And if you saw that film Rob Roy, this is what when the Marquis de Montrose wanted to lock him in the toll booth for a debt of £1,000, and told his henchman to Cunningham to go arrest him and throw him in the toll booth before Cunningham can draw a sword. Rob Roy pulled this out and put it to his throat. And so if you like Scottish stuff, you might like this particular blade. Anyway, of course, I'm also going to have Scotch tonight. So, and then I'm going to talk about the 12 Limitations of Government, written by Andrew Fletcher, and kind of like the precursor to the Bill of Rights. So, get my Glenlivet. Best part of the show, the Glenlivet. Want my opinion? Best part of the show. All right. Let me get that sound just right. Yeah. And we got our little skull shot glass there. Here, people are following stuff. The market took a little bit of a dip today. Somebody dumped $8 billion of E-minis. And the S&P went down naturally. I wonder where $8 billion of E-minis came from magically. That's kind of a lot for such a small trade contract. So this is the Lock and Load show. Blocks aren't Scottish, but they do work. So I'm going to do a quick screen share. And so there was this guy named Andrew Fletcher, who lived around the late 1600s, early 1700s. And he, among other things, was a patriot, but he was a jurist and in Scotland. And he wrote the 12 Limitations of Government when the UK, they wanted to basically have a union with Scotland and make Scotland part of the UK. The Union Act or something like that. And let's see if I could hit the screen share button real quick. And if I could find the right page to screen share. Boy, lots of stuff out there. I sent out some links out there to all the usual suspects. I think there's a Michigan Big Four college basketball game on or something that I don't care about, but a lot of people do follow that kind of thing. I think I gave up on sports.
I'll jump in a little while. I'm just going to listen in for now. My shift's almost over.
Oh, okay. Hey, Squib. Take your time to get your work done. I'll just babble on about 12 Limitations of Government. Doing this podcast on gun channels and throughout the interwebs, and on the 2nd of every month they have Every Second Matters, and try and talk about some Second Amendment stuff. Now, you punch up the page really quick. Firefox browser.
Jared did an Every Second Matters today, and then Ghost Tactical did, and then Smeggy did 2 of them. They were all pretty good.
Yeah, I saw part of the last half of Jared's, I'm just going to take the little Scotch version of this. I think I've talked about the 12 limitations of government before, but I'm going to just talk about it once again. So let me get back and push all the right buttons and see if I can screen share this box, for starters, in the Scottish Museum. Let's see what that's all about. The Darien chest. So this is a big empty box, but in the late 1600s, it used to be full of silver, and they commissioned this in Scotland. The Scottish company, the Darien Company, commissioned expedition to the New World and everybody in Scotland made a contribution. So they were hoping to get rich, and they went to Panama and tried the Darien expedition there, tried to farm and yams, and they had dreams of getting rich, but they kind of fell flat on their faces and didn't. Then since everyone was broke, because that was most of the Scottish wealth, it was like 380,000 pounds sterling of silver, which back then would equivalent of like 17 million pounds sterling or 20 million pounds sterling in today's prices. So the country was broke, and the Union offered to save them by if Scotland would join the Union. And so this jurist, Andrew Fletcher, wrote this thing called the 12 Limitations of Government. And unfortunately for Scotland, it was never adopted, but it was one of the documents that interested Thomas Jefferson and the other people who wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And the one pertaining to firearms was the 9th and kind of the 12th. But the 9th says that all fencible men of the nation, I guess people that meant people that could fight, between 60 and 16, be with all diligence possible armed with bayonets, flintlocks of all of a caliber, and continue always provided in such arms with ammunition suitable. So the government was supposed to provide guns, ammo, and bayonets to the citizens of Scotland. And here's the interesting part, that for me, it wasn't just the gun part. The part on number 12, the 12th limitation of government, that if any king break in upon any of these conditions of government, he shall by the estates be declared to have forfeited the crown. So what that's basically saying is, if you violate the limitations of government, which is basically what the Bill of Rights is, these are the things in the Bill of Rights that the government can't do. So basically, they forfeit their crown and sovereignty over the people. And I thought that was a very practical limitation, and it almost doesn't, if to people of common sense, it almost need not have been written down. Because if there's a whole nation that's armed, and the rulers decide that they're going to break their word and violate these, like the fact that they have to have elections once a year, or any of the limitations of government, then they forfeit their sovereignty. And I think the founding fathers had the same idea with the Second Amendment, was that each state would have enough of a militia, which was the people with arms, that if the federal government was to violate its contract with the people and do things that the Constitution and Bill of Rights said it could not do, then by the mere just number of arms, there was no way that the federal government could enforce I mean, and if you read the Federalist Papers, they actually count out. They wanted to make sure that the federal government could enforce its a violation of the people's rights and violate the limitations of government. And that's really what the Bill of Rights is. It's the government can't do this, the government can't do that. And so when the government in the United States nowadays passes laws limiting or infringing upon the right to keep and bear arms, they're basically de facto forfeiting their sovereignty over the people. And so it's not a question of the loyalty of the people, it's a question of the loyalty of the government. And so when we have, like in many states here, at the federal appellate circuit judges who are basically just political hacks wearing black robes, upholding clearly unconstitutional gun laws because that's their political viewpoint, that they want to. So we're going to go back to Solon's law, and from like 700 BC, and say, okay, because they didn't have armor in the ancient Greek city-state in Athens, you're not allowed to carry your firearm. So it's just a and the Supreme Court hasn't heard a case in 8 years since McDonald Heller. They haven't heard a Second Amendment case in 8 years. Why? Because they don't want to. So I think the point is the freedom of the people is not vested in the Supreme Court or the appellate courts or the president or the Congress. It's guaranteed by Americans with guns. So I think that's how the founding fathers set it up. And if they want to pass a law that says everybody has to march down to the local Gestapo station and turn in their weapons, I just don't think Americans are going to do that. And if they want to pass a law, in some states they have passed a law saying you have to turn in your magazines over a certain number of rounds. I'm sure one or two people will do that, but I just don't think most people are going to do that. Because the people were born and free, and they're not used to tyranny. And so when you try and pass these tyrannical laws, the people just are going to tell whatever government officials are trying to force us to go pound sand. So dear states that have passed all these regulations against various kinds of weapons and magazine limitations, please go pound sand. I'm telling you that you've broken every law you pass in a certain degree forfeits your sovereignty over the people. And so it just puts a big separation between people's willingness to listen to anything that you do or pay attention anymore to anything that you do or care about anything that you do. And as much as they can live their lives without the government, I think we'll be happy. I know I will. So, let's see. I'm not sure what else is going on here. That was my rant for Scotland. Here's a picture of Andrew Fletcher. 1625. No, that was his father. Let's see, what was his life? 1655 to 1716. Scottish writer and politician, remembered as an advocate for non-incorporation of Scotland, and an opponent to the 1707 Act of Union between Scotland and England. Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting, and the whole Darien chest, the Darien expedition to Panama, I thought that was pretty funny. It wasn't funny. The whole country went broke, and having kind of a similar problem with the national debt here in America, and so I did buy a few silver coins last week, and I haven't checked the mail today, but they haven't got here as of yet. So it's one of those things, gold, silver, and maybe some people like crypto for when the banking system finally gives up the ghost. And what most people don't know about the DoddFrank Act, I'm going to take a bit of this. Let me turn off the screen share. All right. So what people don't know about the DoddFrank Act is what most people don't know is that if a bank goes under, and we're talking about big banks, the big five or Chase, JP Morgan, banks like that, Bank of America, if those go under and you have an account and that's basically not your money in there, that you're a creditor to the bank and you're last in line. In short, the president of the bank, before any depositor sees a penny, the president of the bank will get his back pay, golden parachute, severance check, or whatever. There's a lot of people standing in line before the depositors, and the people who will take your money out of your account, whatever. I mean, with fractional reserve lending, there's like only a few cents for every $100 actually in there for anybody that saw It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, or has every holiday. Sometimes they play that film. They kind of explain fractional reserve lending in that, but the people that you expect to safeguard your money and save your money are the people that will take it. It will be the FDIC that goes in, seizes all the bank assets, whatever there are, and distributes it, and the depositors will be last in line. So it's a good idea to have some non-fiat currency kind of stuff around, like gold and silver. It's just like a part of being prepared for the inevitable collapse of the fiat currency system. All fiat currency in the history of mankind fails, and it goes back to its natural value of zero. And you could see that kind of thing happen in Venezuela. But there's been talk of a 50% tax on ammunition. I think before Feinstein leaves, she wants to just screw gun owners over and basically cancel out. They know they can't get a constitutional amendment through, so they're going to try and do it without changing the Constitution. And so basically, what they're doing is abdicating their sovereignty by breaking they're using an abuse of process. It's called abuse of process to appoint judges to appoint political hacks as judges in robes, to uphold unconstitutional laws, and they're abdicating their sovereignty because to get what they want. There's no 12th limitation in the U.S. Bill of Rights, but it's almost like I said, it doesn't really have to be written. If they break the compact between the people and the government, it's implicit. So one can only hope they come to their senses. One thing I wanted to say, which will get probably Squib will have a comment, because he was commenting last week about how we pay lots of money to Africa and we don't get anything. And I was saying last week that we should import some hippopotamus and put them in the Rio Grande River, because the drug cartels like to run like bales full of marijuana and heroin and ice methamphetamines across the river in rafts. So if you had a bunch of hippopotamus and you actually fed them, got them used to feeding on bales of marijuana, then whenever they saw some bales of marijuana, they would associate that with food or possibly getting high. And you would have these hungry hippopotamus who would just flip over the rafts with the drug cartel people on them and then eat all the bales of marijuana because they thought it was food. And maybe they can even figure out that you'd have all these stone marijuana because they could figure out that they get a buzz by eating the loco weed. So That would be a pretty unique thing, because there's been a big deal made in the press about Mexico allowing 1,000 Honduran and Guatemalan immigrants march up the length of Mexico from South America to the U.S. border. And I think I said something. Trump is, I don't know if he listens to my show, but they're not going to mine the border. I guess they're going to use the military funding to build a wall. They can't build it before this particular group of Hondurans or Guatemalans or whatever they are hits the U.S. border. But I guess they're just going to use the military funding to do whatever they want, and which includes some wall building. But anyway, here's to Scotland. Scotch. Yeah, this Glenlivet is single malt. I really like it. Mm, 12 years aged before they even bottle it. It's been sitting around for a while too. This stuff is the good stuff as far as I'm concerned. So I'm probably going to do an ammo run this week. Get a little more ammo before they pass a 50% tax. But I already have so much ammo, I'm not worried about it. It would suck if they pass a 50% ammo tax. But I have quite a bit already saved up. But somebody has a show called Never Enough Ammo, or a channel called Never Enough Ammo, and the ammo mafia, it doesn't look like they're going to be doing any more ammo runs because of YouTube's policies. I've pretty much been ignoring YouTube's policies, but they'll get around to the small, insignificant channels like me later, I guess. They're busy messing with the large channels, and you wonder how all this control of the of free speech seems to be happening at the same time that they want to take away our guns. So anyway, Amazon seems to be taking it on the chin. Facebook seems to be taking it on the chin, and the post office is apparently getting. They basically pay, the post office contributes $1.50 for every time you order something from Amazon in free postage or underpriced postage. So if you want to buy anything from Amazon, you better hurry before Trump somehow fixes that. There may be more shipping costs. The good thing about being prepped is that, I don't really need to buy anything else from Amazon. A little more Mountain House, I guess, but nothing really that I need from Amazon that I haven't prepared because I've been working at it for a few years. I'm sure I'll think of something that I don't have one of these days, and because that's just the nature of prepping. But anyway, I got this pretty cool hat. It's the real deal. It's made from Brazilian cargo tarps from trucks that have basically they cover cargo from the Amazon to Sao Paulo and back. And after, I guess, the tarps get all beat up and used so they can't be used anymore, they make hats out of them. So that's my environmental deed for this year. Okay. Oh, so speaking of environmental needs, somebody has been stealing all the recycled aluminum cans. Some homeless person, and jumping in the pool or something, like in the wee hours of the morning to take a bath. In lieu of taking baths, they just jump in the pool, and then they steal all the cans. We've seen some of that on the security cameras, and it's one of those things that happens in a in a world where we have homeless encampments around. Halcona isn't really that big of a city, but we have our share of homeless around here in the center of town. And you really aren't allowed to do anything to them. You can't beat them up or tie them to a tree or something like over a bunch of cans or for trespassing. And basically, by the time the police would get there, if you called them, they would be gone anyway. Marching down the street with everybody contributes in the complex all their cans into one big pile, and hopefully I get a few free beers. It gets turned into free beer, but anyway, I guess I'll have to buy my own beer in the future. So let me take a look at the externals really quick and say hello to everybody. I sent out links there to all the usual suspects. See who shows up. Like I said, there's the Michigan Final Four. It's in the Final Four of the NCAA tournament. I don't really follow that stuff, but some people like that. All right. Make it to the Stan Ulch, Jesse James. Yeah, I think the price of cans are going to be going up on account of the whole is local 223 Kane 22. The price of aluminum and steel are just going to be going up a little bit due to the tariffs. And you speculate, talk about the tariffs and the touted trade war. I think this has all been planned out by the president of China, the president of Russia, and Donald Trump. They're going to be fighting the deep state, and they're going to have to deal with the globalist bankers. And I don't know what they're going to do with it, how they're going to do it. But I expect massive manipulation because that's what Steve Mnuchin is good at. And so somebody dumped $8 billion worth of e-minis, which is like an S&P exchange traded fund kind of thing. So $8 billion is a lot of money to dump on exchange traded funds, and they sold them. But anyway, that had a big impact today on the market. But it's just lots of manipulation. So to keep it simple, you can't really go wrong with silver or gold or metals because there's just so little more downside that they can be pushed. All right, what's all that noise out there?
That is good old-fashioned American diesel power. That's torque with no guilt, man. Hey, you're talking about the metals going up. What about plastics?
Well, I thought you were not a polymer guy. I mean,
I'm not, but I'm in it. This is my living now. I'm doing something that I'm not. And you know what's funny is, and don't laugh too hard, but I used to have a car with plastic panels on it, and I loved it. So
Japanese car?
No, it was an American car made right here in Pontiac, Michigan. But it had a space frame that was all high-strength steel underneath, and then plastic panels on the outside. Is actually more durable and more corrosion resistant than an all-metal body car. And so you'd think I'd love plastics. And now I'm doing plastics for a living for the first time in my life, and it's still a foreign language to me, but I guess I better pay attention to whether or not the plastics market's going up or down.
Well, I don't think they sell plastic on the COMEX yet.
Now, wouldn't it be funny if they had plastic, what do you call it, fiat currency?
Well, it's
why has it got to be a fiat? Why has it got to be an Italian car?
We kind of do, though. I mean, plastic is basically an oil derivative, right? So petroleum derivative. So the price of oil, they sell oil on the COMEX. So if it's a petroleum byproduct or derivative, then we do have plastic futures.
So over the noise of the factory, I was able to hear most of what you said. And okay, so who's that? The prepper guy that I'm always getting, Mike Helton.
Yeah.
And I'm always telling you, no, that's the president of NASCAR.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you were talking about Andrew Fletcher.
Right.
Yeah, Andrew Fletcher is the keyboardist for Depeche Mode. So I don't know where you're getting all these people's names from.
Depeche Mode, that's an 80s band, isn't it? That's an 80s synthesizer pop band.
Yeah, and Andrew Fletcher is their keyboardist. And before anybody mentions Alan Wilder, he left. So, see, there's all kinds of things about me you just don't know.
Okay, name one Depeche Mode song, because I can't think of one.
Policy of Truth?
Policy of what?
Policy of Truth?
Policy of Truth.
It's off the Violator album.
I've heard of the
Don't
Politics
ask me
of
about
Dancing.
the new stuff. I've heard some of the new stuff, and I don't know anything after playing The Angel. So,
Depeche Mode, man, I think I was like, I must have been like, I don't know what I was doing during the 80s.
You probably remember People Are People. That was their breakthrough in America.
I don't even, vaguely maybe.
I am totally exposing some things about my past. Yeah, I used to be, well, I mean, to some extent, I'm still into that music, but...
Oh, well, maybe you like Scritti Politti. I mean, they were the first synthesizer band. I mean, really, that kind of pop thing. They had a lot of money. They had a synclavier, which was a sampling keyboard that cost like $1 million. And it was an entirely synclavier album. So they had all kinds of money, but it was all just, it was a recording artist phenomenon. Green Guardside. I mean, they had a lot of big hits, but they were all like teenager dance music kind of stuff. It was all synthesizer.
That's good music for the club, man. When you go out and shake your rump.
Yeah, well, yeah, they had a great bassist that they hired to do the album. Marcus Miller was an incredible bass player, so it had a groove. It definitely had a groove.
I still like that techno electronica stuff. I do, but I like other kinds of music too. As I get older, I have kind of branched out a little bit more. I mean, I love most '80s music in general. I mean, it's showing my age, but you know, what's funny is. My youngest son, on a cartoon he used to watch, they would play a lot of 80s music, and that's the reason why he liked some of the music, is the guy who wrote it actually didn't grow up in the 80s. He was younger than that, but he put 80s music in these cartoons, and it really just, it caught on with him. So he doesn't mind it when his mom blares that music in the car.
Well, anyway, I'm drinking and you're driving, so...
Hey, so we're drinking and driving. Welcome to the Monday night drinking and driving show.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad. That was just wrong. Hey, the other thing, too, is on that Mountain House, what's the shelf life on it?
It's like 30, 40, 50 years, something like that.
No, come on.
It's freeze-dried, vacuum sealed with oxygen absorbers, yeah.
I thought the Wise food was 20 years, but I didn't think anything was longer than that.
Well, my understanding is the main difference between Wise and Mountain House is that Mountain House uses real meat and Wise uses, for the most part, texturized vegetable protein. So if you want like real meat for your protein instead, then go with the Mountain House. It'll cost more money.
Well, don't you have a Walmart there in Kona?
Yes.
Well, Walmart sells Mountain House.
And you know what? The prices went up recently.
But you're talking about having to pay to ship it, though. So do you buy it locally and avoid the shipping, or do you just ship it in?
They don't sell the number 10 cans at which are a better deal per ounce of than the individual bags. So if you can get free shipping of a number 10 can, that's going to have more food in it than the individual bags, which they used to be like $5 or $6. Now they're like $10 each, over 10 at Walmart. Last time I went.
Oh wow, they don't cost that. They don't cost that much here.
Well, welcome to Hawaii. Everything costs in Hawaii.
Okay, so the number 10 can, is that just like a menu thing? Number 10. I mean, it has certain things in it, and the number 9 would have other things, and number 8
No,
would
it's the size of the can. I'll get a number 10 can since you've never seen these. I guess you've never seen a number 10 can of Mountain House? All right, I'll get one.
I've only bought them in individual packets, either at the surplus store or
all right, I'll go get
at
one
Walmart.
really quick. I'll go get one really quick just to show it to you. I don't know if you could look at it while you're driving, but you could always do a playback later.
I can just look down, kind of glance over. I mean, I'm at a red light right now.
All right, give me a second. I have to run get one. Give me a second.
All right.
I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Well, I remember buying Mountain House food a long time ago at the Army Navy surplus store, and it tasted awful. It just tasted like too many preservatives in it and whatnot. I didn't try everything they had, but I'm not even sure if it's the same Mountain House food now that it was then.
You get my step ladder.
Oh my goodness, he's going to go up in the attic. If you guys hear a big crash, somebody call 911. I don't know. MREs don't last very long, but they don't bother me. The taste really doesn't bother. I know some people really can't stand them. That's why they come with that little Tabasco sauce. Just put some Tabasco on it, and that'll give it some flavor. But I think their only the shelf life on them is only like 5 or 6 years. So it's kind of a shame. That, and they are pricey. Last time I bought one, I think it was $9. And back in the day, they were cheaper than that. In the military, they were free. But most people didn't want to eat them. What they would do is they would give us 1 hot chow a day and 2 MREs in the field. If they couldn't get us a hot chow out there, they couldn't either drive it out or fly it out. We'd eat 3 MREs a day.
All right, let's see. Right here, let me hit the camera, turn the camera on. So this is 1 pound of food.
And that's a number 10?
This is a number 10 can. I know Dana was making fun of me for number 10 because I was just into Mountain House number 10 can mode, but you don't have to hunt. You just have to be able to boil water. This one is one of the more expensive ones. I think chicken and rice is the cheapest, but this is Italian-style pepper steak with rice and tomatoes. I think Canadian Prepper really liked this one, so I bought 1 can. But this is one of the more expensive ones, and it's freeze-dried food, 1 pound. As long as you can boil water, you're good to go.
Okay, so if you add water, how much does it increase the weight?
Put my earbuds so I can hear what you're saying, Squib.
Sorry. If you add water, how much does it increase the weight?
Bag water. Somebody actually did that. Put water in a bag and was selling it as a prepper item, but it's so stupid.
Well, no. I mean, okay, it's freeze dried and it weighs 1 pound. You boil it, you're hydrating it.
Yeah.
So, but okay, to be blunt, I can swallow a 1 pound steak and I'm still hungry. So I could eat that whole can. And I'd be like, "What else you got to eat, man?"
Well, if you eat the whole can of freeze-dried food and then drink a glass of water, your stomach will explode. So,
that would be bad.
Yeah, in a prepping situation. So so we just had Passover. Some people didn't know and never seen what matzah looked like. This is unleavened bread, and so it's just flour and water, and this one they put in a little egg and fruit juice, but.
Not much different than hardtack.
Yeah, it's thin. This one happens to be kosher for Passover, which means the rabbi oversaw the baking of it, basically. And but if you've never seen unleavened bread, this is what in Egypt, what they didn't have time to. It's basically wheat with no yeast to make it rise. Water and wheat. They didn't when they were bugging out of Egypt. And Moses was all with that "let my people go" shit, and this is what they had. This is what they had time to bake, and then they got the heck out of Dodge. And so that's all what the Passover stuff was about. I will say that the Kona Chabad Passover Seder, the rabbi's a little too Zen Buddhist interpretation of the 4 questions for my taste, and there was too many Obama supporters there. I mean, but hey, this is a blue state, so what do you expect? It wasn't that way in Honolulu when I was at that one a couple years back. But see, if you've never seen what matzah unleavened bread looks like, I think it'll store a pretty long time because it just, I mean, we'll look at it. There's no, I mean, it's basically a big cracker. You know.
Okay, so do they have kosher MREs? Because I never saw those when I was in the military. We had, there was probably a Jewish chaplain. I don't think I ever saw one of those either, but I'm sure there was. So.
Could be. I don't think the Army necessarily is guaranteed to provide kosher meals for all its soldiers. I know my cousin, when he was in the Navy, made a big deal about wearing well, I mean, I don't really consider him my cousin, but he claims to be. But anyway, he made a big deal about wearing a yarmulke, and I think they allow that, but it's kind of, if it interferes with their duty somehow, then I guess their job is supposed to come first. So I don't know how a yarmulke could interfere with someone's duty, but I guess it did at one point.
I mean, you could just wear it underneath your cap. Nobody would know. Yeah, I don't think I ever saw a yarmulke while I was in. I don't recall any kosher MREs. Anytime I got mess duty, I don't remember anything kosher in the chow hall. But I don't ever remember anybody complaining about it either. So,
Right. Well, I'm sure the IDF has kosher meals, but that's in Israel. So, so if you want kosher MREs, try and get something from the Israeli Army. I'm sure they have kosher MREs.
We had the Israelis come to our base to train with us because they use the same helicopters. We had the Air Force come in and train with us too because they use the same helicopters. It's really kind of cool having other branches of the military or other militaries from other parts of the world come and train with you, and you pick up tips and tricks from each other and kind of network, kind of like a business.
Yeah. The Israeli Air Force is a top-notch Air Force. Definitely one of the better military organizations on the planet.
Well, we were supposed to go to Haifa in Israel for one of our ports of call, but no, they wanted to send us to Somalia instead. I guess sometimes you can't always just go have fun. You got to do work.
Well, what was that line from that movie?
They wanted to send you to Somalia where everybody's sucking sand.
Subject to the requirements of the service, I believe is the phrase. Hey, Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Sorry for being late. I had to talk to a guy about something.
Well, I don't hand out demerits or anything. I just start the chat when it's supposed to start. Sometimes people show up and sometimes they wander in. So you see, I saw like the second half of your show that you're doing in Every Second Matters. Did G-Webs do one today or not? Or was it just a lot of everybody, a lot of channels individually did a say Every Second Matters?
I don't know if he did one or not. I don't think so.
Is he driving around in his van?
Vermont, that whole Vermont article.
Well, bring it. You can talk about it now.
Driving around in his van. I'm not sure what's up.
G-Webs was on.
He can't.
G-Webs was on Smeggy's second Every Second Matters show today. He did a short one and then he did a longer one later.
Okay. Well, I'm just drinking Scotch in keeping with the my new knife that I got. My Skin Do. It's called Skin Do. It's SGIANDUBH. I think it's pronouncing it correctly, but I'm not sure if somebody from Scotland can help me. Skin Do. Is that how you pronounce it? Let me know.
Where's the crazy Scotsman?
Well, yeah, or there's a few. I got a few subs from Scotland, but it's a nice spear point.
Cool. Looks pretty nice.
Yeah, buffalo horn and brass pins and brass lanyard hole. It's full tang. Full tang. So, yeah, it's definitely full tang. Full tang clan. You know, I saw that whole. When I bought, it hasn't got here yet. My katana. When I bought I bought it after I had watched it. First, they had a Conan the Barbarian on cable, and followed by Conan the Destroyer, and all that Riddle of Steel stuff. I just had to. I've been wanting a katana for a while, and so I said, okay, I'll get a katana. That's a pretty decent sword. All that sword play in that movie. It's like, yeah, I'll finally get a decent sword. I mean, I didn't spend $300 for like a T10 differentially hardened because I just didn't want to spend $300. But I think the one I got, it is steel. It will cut, and it's modern steel. It'll do the job. I'll just have to work to keep it sharp. That's all. And I imagine it's a long blade, 28 inches, so it'll be a lot of sharpening.
You're gonna have to keep it oiled in that climate or something, right? You're gonna have to maintain it.
Yeah, either gun oil or mineral oil or something like that.
I've seen some crazy swords the first time I went to Tokyo. They had a sword museum, and I gotta find. My brother has those photos in a hard drive. You would love to see some of the weird stuff we saw the first time we were there.
Oh yeah, Japanese swords. You could spend a small fortune on them, but I didn't want to do that, so I just went with something that was on sale for $80.
You know, which isn't bad, but you know the weirdest thing about Japan is you went into an Army Navy store and there was swastikas everywhere. Hitler Youth knives, swastika pants, and it wasn't the swastika that goes the other way. It was the actual swastika.
Well, they had World War II memorabilia. Yeah.
It was just weirded out. It was like they were like super swastika. I don't know. I've never seen, I guess we're in the United States. So when this
was in a Japanese surplus stores, you're saying?
In Tokyo, yeah.
In Tokyo.
We were really weirded out by it. It was like, oh my God, dude, everything's like Hitler, Nazi. What the fuck's up with this place? Obviously, it's a guy who collects that memorabilia, but I just never walked into a store like that before. I was like taken back a little bit. I was like, I think we need to leave. Like, we might be in the wrong store.
They have ways of making you buy our surplus. I mean, when I was a kid, I studied German because I always thought it was the language. It would be helpful to know the language of the enemy, so I could, if I was close, I could hear what they were planning to do and then fight them effectively. But it just turned out I wound up dubbing films in German instead. So
you're still good because you made money off them. I mean, you didn't make money off of Nazis. You made money off of German people. But
right.
I mean,
I don't know, and it turned out they weren't the enemy anymore.
No.
So
they're just crazy people who like to wear all sorts of weird shit and like to make things.
Well, in Tokyo, I mean, reenactors, it's like you have Civil War reenactments, Revolutionary War reenactments. You don't get mad at people wearing red coats being the British side in a Revolutionary War reenactment. It's just reenactment. And
well, yeah, but those Nazi uniforms are making a big comeback now with America's youth. So, I mean, that's what I saw on the internet.
Those damn socialists.
With those armbands and the brown shirts.
Yeah, well, that's too bad. People don't learn from history or condemned to repeat all the mistakes all over again.
Unfortunately. It surprises me how little people know about not just the past of our world, but just their own past as far as their culture or their country. It's kind of funny how if you have to be when you go through all the stuff you got to go through to legally become a U.S. citizen, not just get made a citizen so you'll vote Democrat, but legally you have to actually take civics and history. And you have to understand how the Constitution works and what are the branches of government and American history and things like that. And I've seen some of this stuff. Not all of it, but I've seen some of it from some people that I know that legally got their citizenship. And it's like they weren't asking us questions like this in high school. What I know about history is more about what I took the time to learn on my own because it's kind of a hobby. But I just don't find it difficult. It's like reading a story almost. And I don't understand why people don't even care to know why things were the way they were 100 years ago, or where this word came from, or why is this flag this color, or just, I know it's some people it's just trivial nonsense, but still, I mean, don't people look around and wonder, hey, why is the sky blue? Or am I the only one?
I've been stumped by a guy in the Army who just took that civics class. He asked me something about the government. And I was like, oh, I got like a couple things wrong, and he was making fun of me. This was in the Army. So he was getting his citizenship.
So they want the people who are legally getting their citizenship to actually know more about our government than we know, living here and having gone to public school provided by our government. What's up with that? But yeah, just in general, I just don't understand why the average person doesn't.
Oblivious, the average oblivious person who's been brainwashed their whole life. I mean, we live in a world of brainwashed, manipulated facts and media, and that's.
I mean, I guess it's just easier just to be ignorant, I guess.
It's easier just to change the dictionary. That way, you're right with your argument.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
Well, there was I'll go pull another line from Babylon 5. It's like what the Technomad said. I could warn you, but you wouldn't listen. I could kill you, but somebody else would just take your place. So I'm just going to go. And that's pretty much how you have to deal with a lot of people. They won't listen if you warn them, and if you kill them, some other fool will just take their place. So
there's a quiet group of people out there who are somewhat open, even in my state. There's people who are out there, they might not comment on the videos, they might not even tell me that they watched them, but I know there's people out there who are peeping my videos. And
law enforcement. Law enforcement. What can we get this guy for?
Well, here's a good question, Jared. Do you think that in the videos that people on gun channels put out and the shows like this show or the lobbies or stuff, do you think it's mostly us talking to our own people, or do you think there are some anti-gunners that are out there watching? They're actually either trying to learn or they're studying us. Because I think we're most of our shows and our videos, it's just us talking to our own people.
No, I think there's at least one guy because the one guy comes along and thumbs down almost every one of my videos. So I think he's an anti-gunner.
Well, what happens is most of it's an echo chamber, but there's going to be some people on the fence who might watch a little bit of it. Might watch this or that. Maybe I should cut the sections up and put links to each question. I mean, I'm just hoping for, even if it's one person per video, just someone who's like, oh, I don't really like him. I've had some conversations with some different people. That video about the semi-automatic, I had a buddy message me one night, or I messaged him, and he was like, oh yeah, I watched your video. I don't agree with everything you said in your video, but here's this and that, and I had a chance to have a conversation with him. So that wasn't the original person I wanted to have the conversation with, but I was so happy to have a conversation with somebody who's not on our side. So that's all
I wasn't. I had a conversation with a bunch of those people at the Passover Seder. Let me ask you, I mean, I almost turned the table over in front of him, but it was like, let me ask you, what were you saying about revolvers being considered semi-automatics in California?
Well, yeah, there's one semi-automatic revolver. There's a Webley that is actually a semi-automatic revolver.
We're talking from the 1930s? Okay.
You know what we're talking about recently? A guy, David from Florida. Excuse me. He got somebody like came over to his gun shop and was like, "Hey, there's something wrong with my revolver. It only shoots in single action." And they found out that it's actually a revolver, a California compliant revolver, because they're only allowed to purchase revolvers off their list. So I guess if you want a revolver that's not on the list, it has to be converted to single action only.
Wait a minute. You can't even have a double action revolver in California?
My dad has a 686.
Well, this is just hearsay. Well, that's an older gun. Like, if, like, imagine they came out with some newer model that's not on the handgun roster, right?
Well, a 686 is a pretty awesome gun. I mean, it's like that scene from Lord of War where he said, "Yeah, why'd you shoot that guy? I can't sell it now because it's a used gun." I mean, a 686 S&W may be an old gun, but it's a damn good one.
Yeah, but that's not my point. The point is, it's a way around the law.
I mean, it's double action.
Well, it's not real. Is it a way around the law, or is it a way within the law? Because if you're just following what the law says, then it's really within the law.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, but sometimes when people hear, when sometimes people hear around the law, they think you're purposely trying to break the law, and it's like, no, I'm doing what they're telling me I can legally do. So that's why I like to say within the law. And then therein goes, see, here we are talking, and now I'm talking like there's an anti-gunner out there listening, or like you're saying, somebody on the fence who might go, okay, these guys aren't a bunch of criminals, or these guys aren't crazy, or these guys actually understand the science of ballistics and understand the history of firearms and understand the laws. That's just it. I've noticed some people do their shows as if they're just talking to the 2A community, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And then some people do their shows or their videos like they're talking to somebody on the outside. I don't see a problem with that either, but I think sometimes the two formats, they don't always see eye to eye.
Well, I would love to get on there and just scream "shall not be infringed" all day, but that's not going to help anybody. The one person that somehow has an open mind, that's not going to help that person at all. So, I mean, that's kind of why I didn't have a panel this time, because I didn't want someone screaming "shall not be infringed." Or, you know, I wanted it to be as nonpartisan as possible, but while still preaching the good word of the
I just wanted an excuse to go with the 12 limitations of government to give me an excuse to drink scotch.
Well, Hawaii, you tend to vent online, and so do I. I'm getting to be famous in gun channels in my own world for my rants. So thank you very much, people, for bringing that up in other people's shows or even on this one. But it does kind of help us get it off of our chest. We got so much trapped inside of us, and it's from reading these ridiculous laws that don't make us any safer, or dealing with these people that are ignorant and don't want to take the time to understand what they're protesting against or voting against, or watching some of these videos where they're interviewing these people at the protests, or hearing these things these politicians are saying or whatever, and it just or paying some of the ridiculous prices because of some stupid law, or going through all the paperwork or the hassle, or being told that this thing that you've owned for 10 years is now illegal. And it's like, wait, I didn't do anything, you know, and all that's frustrating. And then when we get on air and we vent, some people maybe don't think it's a good idea to vent, but I don't know. I kind of think of it as therapy.
Well, I only invented that process, so I flipped my lid. When Maura Healey did the reinterpretation, technically I'm a felon, but she said she's not going to prosecute us.
Oh, how nice of her.
Anybody that's owned or transferred an assault weapons compliant rifle since 1994, technically, we can almost backdate it to 94 because it shouldn't have been in the state, has been in illegal possession of the weapons. So I fucking lost it for a little while there.
But see, Jared, what I think though is when people on our side who aren't in Massachusetts, but we feel for you. Here you do that. I think people, at least like me, you know, we feel your pain and we understand, and we also try to stay vigilant that it doesn't happen in our state or that it doesn't happen on a national level. So sometimes I think those rants are good, but I see the people who have a different format with their videos and their shows, where they don't want the, like you're saying, this time around you didn't do a panel, so there wouldn't be a shall not be. I get that. I think there needs to be a balance. Sometimes you need it, and sometimes you don't.
Yes.
But I think for overall, most of the people that watch our videos are our own people. I'd rather us be arguing over 45 versus 9mm, or double action versus single action, or open carry versus concealed carry.
Some of that stuff is like the whole thing about. Let me pull another Babylon 5 one. There's 3 videos on green versus purple, or purple versus green, where there's this race called the Drazi, and what they do every so often is they get a bunch of green cloth and a bunch of purple cloth, and they mix it up in this big giant container, and they're equal amount pieces of cloth to enough for one piece of cloth for every Drazi, and it's totally random whether you get a purple or a green cloth, and then after everybody gets a piece of cloth, they put it around their neck, and then the greens fight the purples. And that there's this, if you watch the 3 green versus purple on Babylon 5 YouTube clips, it's so funny. But it's like they're trying to draws. You're saying, well, you do the same thing, humans. Like you fight over flags, right? Well, that's different. It's supposed to mean something. It stands for something. It's not just a random piece of cloth. and it's just so funny. But they do the same thing. It's like you put out 45 versus 9mm chats that there have been 1,000 of, and it's like it doesn't matter what anybody actually believes. You just 2 or 3 guys take one side, 2 or 3 guys take the other, and then they fight and people yell at each other for an hour, and it's like watching a traffic accident.
I'm currently carrying 380, but I miss my Glock 30. I loved shooting that Glock 30. But anyways, the SF. But
that's what I'm going to be carrying in Arizona, is the Glock 30S.
Yeah, I had the SF, and I love that thing. But I've already gotten freaked out and pissed. And I was doing a project at my liberal college, and I attacked groupthink and made some bunch of graphics that attacked Democrats, and everybody got pissed at me, and they almost wrote me up, and I almost got in a shit ton of trouble. So I've already been through that phase, and I'm just kind of in a different place right now. I might go back into that phase,
I'm not saying it's wrong to be calm and rational and all that. I'm not saying that at all. I guess sometimes for me, when I hear someone saying too much calm, too much rational, too much almost making excuses for the other side, stuff like that, I feel like they're giving in. I guess I don't need to hear somebody yell "shall not be infringed" in every video, but sometimes when I don't hear it, I'm thinking that person's giving up on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, there was this real annoying guy at the Passover who kept saying that at the Seder table was saying that, well, all the politicians are really good people with good intentions. What is this land of unicorns and rainbows that you live in?
Yeah, and that's just it. The whole unicorns and rainbows, I think it's because by nature I'm a pessimist. And when I'm dealing with an optimist, even if it's somebody that I respect or that we're both kind of on the same page or we're both heading in the same direction, I have trouble dealing with the whole optimism. In my life, I've had more bad things happen than good. Terrible things happen. And almost every single one of them, I was responsible for making that problem go away and never happen again. Or I was responsible for getting myself out of that, even though I didn't put most of the terrible things that happened to me, other people put on me, and it was up to me to fix it. And throughout my life, I've had a thing where if I'm prepared for the worst, but it doesn't happen, at least I'm ready for it. But if it does happen, it's not going to be as bad as if I'm unprepared. That, it's kind of like the prepper mentality. But also that if I plan for the worst, if I expect the worst, if I look at everything from that point of view, I'm not going to be as let down as if I'm all rainbows and unicorns and then we get a thunderstorm.
Speaking of unicorns,
what
when I was talking about the 12 limitations of government and the Darien expedition that Scotland sent to Panama, the name of the ship that was sent to form a colony in Panama on behalf of the Scottish Darien Company of Scotland, the name of the ship was Unicorn.
See, you got to be careful, because if there's rainbows and unicorns, it's an ominous sign. It's not. But I'm not saying that optimists are bad people. Not at all. I just don't relate to them. So it's almost like talking to a liberal for me. I don't relate to you.
Some of it, I think of it like egos. Like, a lot of people want to believe that we're in some sort of a technical renaissance, and they believe that there's no way we can leave this. They believe that nothing could go sour because we're better. We're the best generation. We're breaking out of the mold. And it's all bullshit. See, we know that this shit's all bullshit. They think that they're in they got the yellow brick road to fucking making the world a better place. And I'm referring to the optimists and the liberals. But, what's kind of funny is, HVS, I spent most of my life in Marblehead, Mass, or at least up to 10th grade. And Marblehead is a lot of Jewish people. And it's funny how anti-gun everybody is from there.
I know.
It's so weird how super anti-gun the people are. And it's like, have you guys not read history? Did your parents not tell you about history? But then here we go again. It's like they're in the Renaissance. They're fixing everything. They have this big ego, and it can never go wrong. And somebody would never ruin something.
Well, people think they feel it when you're on the cutting edge. Sometimes it feels like you're riding on the crest of a very high and beautiful wave, but you're not. And eventually, you'll just take your surfboard's going to go face first and plant you into the bottom of the ocean.
Or
then your leash breaks, and then you get swept out to sea, and you're fighting the current, and you're lucky if you don't drown.
Well, this Renaissance you're talking about, I think it has to do with destroying our history, destroying our traditions, destroying our values, taking away any security we might still have, and overall making us weaker, and somehow or another that's better.
No, they're good.
I think it's
good.
Technology. We're very technologically oriented society, so I think that people think that the more technology advances, the more people advances. Hate to go all Wrath of Khan on you guys, but yeah, you improve microchip, and like Apple is going to be making their own microchips and telling Intel to take a hike. So Intel crashed today a little bit, but it's like the people don't get any better; they get worse. Not that I'm in favor of.
What does that have to do with Wrath of Khan?
Genetic. Khan was a genetic.
No, he was eugenics.
Eugenics, right.
So when you make him stronger and you make him smarter, you also make him more arrogant. You see, with eugenics, you enhance everything, good and bad. So eugenics is not necessarily just enhancing the better traits. That's why Khan was evil.
Well, he didn't see himself as evil. He saw himself as avenging his wife.
No, because he was a narcissist. So, but he was a super narcissist. He was a narcissist that could pick up two people with one arm. So, I mean,
yes. Well,
but yeah, I don't hate liberals. I don't hate optimists. But when they pump me full of rainbows and unicorns and everything's going to be okay and quit looking at everything is so bad and why are you always so negative and all this sort of stuff, I just don't want to deal with them. Sometimes I try, but it's like Dude, have you just had somebody hand you everything in your life on a platter? Because I've had to work for everything I've got. I've had to fix every problem somebody else has created for me. And everything that is good in my life
I
is
can't wait
almost,
till you have a beard
you know,
and tell your grandchildren that you how you used to shovel snow to
yeah.
get to the store.
Well, it's like I have a lot of great things in my life. And I got to thank the fact that I'm an American. I got to thank my parents. And I got to thank God that I have these things. But the fact that I'm American, it means I'm free to do the things that I got to do to make this life good. The fact that my parents raised me right is just because they have traditional American values. And the fact that God gives me a choice, right or wrong, and I try to choose right. Every now and then I choose wrong. Is why I have what I have, and I'm overall happy. For a pessimist, I'm a happy person. So, but nobody's doing that for me. Nobody's giving. Nobody has been. So I guess when I hear somebody that just has this rainbows and unicorn point of view, or just let the government handle it for you, or everything's going to be okay kind of thing, I'm just thinking, who the hell is paying your bills and doing everything for you? Because I don't have that in my life. I don't get it.
Well, I don't
So
think
maybe
any of
I'm
these people that I was meeting had people paying their bills, but I did think that they were just. I mean, to think that every politician is basically a good person.
They're not benign. They're not.
I mean, it's like. I mean, I'm expecting a bunch of sealed indictments to come down before the end of the year, possibly by summer. And I think a lot of Democrats are going to get hauled off to jail. I mean, a lot of Democrats. And it'll be a big, I don't know if Clinton will be one of them, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of corrupt politicians that get locked up, I think. And
they got a lot of immunity. I don't even think they would send them to that place that they sent that, what was that? Camp Cream Puff or whatever they call it that they sent. Who was that? Yeah, they sent that. I can't think of her name. It wasn't Julia Child. There's the other one that does like crafts and cooking and stuff like that. And she was guilty of insider trading or something. What the heck was her name?
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart. Didn't they send her to some place called Camp Cream Puff or something?
I don't know,
but the jail for rich people.
Julia Child was like an OSS agent in World War II.
I mean, that's true. She was. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's all that cooking and crafts crap. I could have said Rachel Ray, whatever. But yeah, so they sent her, Martha Stewart. Didn't they send her to like the jail for rich people? So
I wasn't really following closely.
They sent her to some place like Allenwood.
So
what that place used to be.
If these politicians actually do get convicted of something, HVS, I think they would just send them off to some country club jail, or it'd be house arrest. They put one of them ankle things on, and they'd have to stay in their mansion.
Well, I think we're going to find out what happens in this summer. But I wanted to read a comment really quickly from the chat. Liberty Not Licensed says eugenics is simply selective breeding of human beings. It is not magnification of both positive and negative traits, whatever those might be determined to be.
Oh, whatever.
Okay, whatever.
Well, isn't eugenics going to become very different very soon? Now that they're mapping the human genome, if you want your kid to be white, you're just going to hit the button on this gene. You want blue eyes and blonde hair, you're going to hit these buttons. You want 6'2", you'll hit this button. So, eugenics, more than any insane person's wildest dream who wanted eugenics back in the 1800s is going to be able to pump out every kid you want.
Or the 1940s.
I mean, I could understand if somebody doesn't want their child to have some inherited disease, genetic disease or something, but I mean, beyond that, it's kind of a little.
So everybody will end up looking the same. They'll all be the tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed, muscular, intelligent, and disease-free.
Well, I mean, or you can, people will be cloning warriors for the army, like in the Clone Wars. I finally saw TNT last night, but finally had one of the new Star Wars films that I hadn't seen on, so I watched it. It was The Force Awakens, and I hadn't seen that before, so I want to thank
you didn't
everybody. I want to thank everybody who didn't give away the any spoilers, so I won't from that one. But
it was lame.
What are you talking about? It was pretty much the first Star Wars movie all over again. I was disappointed by that.
I thought
It was
okay.
lame. Well, wait. Which one was it? No, The Last Jedi was
A New Hope.
Had parts of.
I haven't seen The Last Jedi yet.
The Last Jedi had elements of Empire in it, and
I like when Chewbacca. I like when Han Solo fires the crossbow and says, "I like this thing."
The bowcaster. Yeah, I know. All these years, he never shot the thing because it's so heavy.
And then he actually shoots it, and he realizes he likes it. And then when Chewbacca goes nuts, and then he starts shooting the crossbow in the enemy base, and then he blows up. He has the detonator for the explosive, blows the place up. Chewbacca goes nuts and starts shooting people. That was just great. I mean, more Wookiees. Yeah. All I have to say is I want to see like more Wookiees in the next one.
Pissed off.
There were Wookiees in one of the prequels.
I felt like they pulled the bullshit on me, and I felt like I was watching A New Hope all over again. So I was a little angry about that. It's like a better version of New Hope. I realize it.
Why? Because what Star Killer base is better than the Death Star. Star Killer, really? That's the best name they could come up with.
Because I was able to guess what was.
What do you expect? They work for Disney.
Well, I was just pissed because I feel like I don't know if you guys know who Hideo Kojima is, but he successfully did this a long time ago. He created a video game that was like award-winning. And then when he did it, he came out with he came out with a video game called Metal Gear Solid. And then he came out with Metal Gear Solid 2, and he secretly made you play the first game again. And
look, the writers in Hollywood can't come up with anything. The writers just can't come up with anything new. But here's the thing. First Death Star had a weakness, easy to exploit. Second Death Star had a weakness, easy to exploit. They make a Death Star out of an entire planet. It has a little weakness, easy to exploit. Can these guys get it right? I mean, really?
Nope.
Well, I would really love it if somebody could actually construct a real functioning lightsaber. That would be so awesome to have one.
If you go to Disney, you can build one in their workshop.
I don't think it's physically been figured out. I don't think the physics have been figured out on how to do that.
Well, you can get a cheap piece of metal that looks like.
Yeah, I don't mean something that Walmart sells.
Well, I mean, Jared, have they outlawed kyber crystals in Massachusetts yet?
No idea.
Okay, because you need a kyber crystal. You need a kyber crystal in order. I mean, you could make a synthetic one. See, I'm totally nerding out on you guys.
What's a kyber crystal? Is it from Afghanistan or something?
No, a kyber crystal is like the energy source for a lightsaber. It's also how the Death Star's laser beam works. You'd know that if you saw some of the newer films.
Well,
I know that in the original they used a Grass Valley video editing machine as the controller for the
kyber crystal is formed in the heart of an exploding star, and they're rare throughout the galaxy. And in order to make a lightsaber work, you have to have one.
Gold is originally formed in stars, so I mean.
Everything is.
Well, I've played.
It's a fictional.
Well, gold is real. I don't know about kyber crystals, but gold is real, and it is formed in supernovas. So.
Well, just like lightsabers are fictional.
For Star Wars, over the years, all the crappy old computer games like with Kyle Katarn and whoever the other guy was, the ones that talked about the Black Troopers or the Dark Troopers. I've played like a crap ton of the old first-person shooters. I played Star Wars Galaxies for like 4 years. I don't know if you know what that is. You know what that is, Squib?
Yeah, I've seen my kids play it.
Liberty Not Licensed says you can get lightsabers. You just have to pay a $250 tax stamp fee and wait about 9 months.
Nice. Funny.
I'm not like a complete Star Wars geek, but I'm like halfway there. Have you seen the Family Guy Star Wars yet?
No.
I've seen parts of it, yeah.
Oh man, I burst out laughing the whole time.
It's funny. It's funny.
I love the
Yeah.
best part is when they go to they're giving everybody the head nod on the they're on the skiff on with Jabba. They're on
Oh, I
those,
think
like,
I only
floating
saw the first one.
platforms.
I saw the Family Guy version of the New Hope. I didn't see any of the other ones.
You didn't see it, and they give everybody the head nod, and it takes like 10 minutes. And I won't spoil what's at the end, but it does an obscure reference to Caddyshack.
Nice.
And I quote that quote a lot, so I don't know. I want to send you the link after the chat. I'm gonna send it right now.
Patrick said he did some long range shooting, and he hit a lot of 700-yard shots pretty easy.
Patrick, we're talking about lightsabers here. What is this?
Well, I know he sent me an email because I sent him a link, but he can't make it to tonight's show.
Oh, okay. All right, then.
I sent out a lot of links to a few people. I guess some people show up, some people don't, but that's okay. Well,
I appreciate you putting up with me being at the end of my shift and not being able to jump right in.
Well, I know that if I don't give you an outlet to rant, then you'll probably go home and kick your dog or something bad.
I'll only kick my dog if he craps on the floor or gets in my way or something. He knows better.
Okay, yeah, well.
Otherwise, I'll pet him and give him a treat.
Well, that's a good human. Be a good human. Be nice to dogs.
A dog is a domesticated animal like a cat or, not a cat, like a cow or a chicken. It serves a purpose. It's not a person. It's like a horse. It serves a purpose. Yes, it's a pet. Yes, it's a member of the family. Yes, I love my stupid dog. And I've loved lots of stupid dogs, but they're dogs.
Name?
They're livestock. They're not people.
What's your stupid dog's name?
Sig.
Sig. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, don't let anything bad happen to your Sig.
Yeah, don't let nothing bad happen to my Sig. But he's a good boy. He's a dumb dog, but I mean, he's smart, but he's dumb, just like any other dog. He does dumb stuff, but he's protective and he's loyal and he can do tricks and he knows what I'm saying when I'm talking to him and that sort of thing. But he's like any other dog. He's a dog. He's an animal that doesn't live as long as a person. He's an animal that you have to get a license for and take to a vet. And he's an animal that if he doesn't serve a purpose, I mean, I do have some lizards that don't do anything. But overall, I like to have an animal that serves a purpose. You're either going to protect my family or be food. What is it? So since I don't eat dogs, he can protect the family.
Well, they have good senses. They have good sensory perception. They can alert you to intruders and stuff like that. They have great hearing.
Before I would shoot an intruder, I'd let the dog go and let him just have his way. That dog would tear somebody up. And if the dog got killed protecting the family, the dog was doing his job. Just like when the cow gets slaughtered and turned into beef, the cow was doing his job. They're domesticated animals. And some people say, you're cold, you're insensitive, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm sorry. I have children. I'll put my dog down or any pet down before I put my kids down. I know some people that love their horse more than their kids. I don't get it. So, whatever. It's just my opinion. Just because if my dog gets in my way and I trip over him and about break my neck, I give him a good kick to his ass, doesn't mean that I don't love him. Because I mean, he's a dog. So.
And there's all those PETA people who think that there's currently a Holocaust going on for domesticated animals. I've seen memes from PETA, and it's like they show a bunch of people in a concentration camp being murdered, and it's like they show animals at a farmhouse, and they're like, there's nothing different between these photos.
These are wild animals that we have as the smartest species on the planet, domesticated for our use, whether it be as guard dogs, whether it be as pack animals, whether it be for food, whatever it is. When these PETA people see somebody using a dog as a seeing eye dog, they think it's abusive. When they see these dogs that go out hunting, they think it's abusive. These dogs enjoy being around people. And these animals like chickens and cows and stuff like that, unless you got one as a pet that you won't eat, they don't know the difference that they're raised for food or not. They don't know. They're not wild animals. They're not free and all this. That's what they're. I mean, jeez. If somebody's so busy, obsessed over the fate of a chicken or a cow or a dog or fish brought up in a hatchery to become the Gordon's fisherman or whatever, really, you got way too much free time on your hand, dude.
Well, I think my personal opinion on dogs is I just get along with them better than most people is all, because, I mean, they don't argue with you. They don't lie to you. They don't cheat you. They don't do the things to people are more evil. They can be more evil than a dog. I mean, a dog can be aggressive or non-aggressive or passive, but the people can be pretty damn evil. So I just trust dogs. I know what to expect from a dog. With people, you never know. Never can tell.
That is true. That it's rare that your dog's just going to flip out one day and turn on you. But it's still a dog. You can talk to it all you want. It can't really talk back. I mean, to some extent they can. And you can, you can have it there to keep you company and stuff like that. It's not going to replace. I'm sorry, it's not going to replace a girl, dude. Okay.
Well, I don't own a dog.
But I just say, if you think that having a dog, I think, like you were talking about, the dog would be good for your health, because the dog, you would want to walk the dog. Therefore you would walk. That's your dog being a companion, but it's a domesticated animal. And even though your kids can break your heart and some woman can stab you in the back, people are still better than animals. So just my opinion.
Well, I don't know about that. People can be a lot worse than animals too. So
I guess, man. I mean,
I like dogs.
I've had a dog. I've had a dog most of my life. But most animals don't outlive people. They just don't. So expect to just go through dogs like you go through a car.
Except tortoises, maybe.
If you get a car to last about as long as a dog lives, you're doing good. So, I mean, that's just a fact of life. And somebody can go, oh, my dog is dead, I can't go on. Dude, go rescue one and do a good thing and give that dog a good home and get over the loss of the other dog. And then you've not only can you still have a dog as a companion or as a guard dog or as a member of the family or whatever it is, but you just went and rescued another one that needed love. Some people can't. Some people, they're so attached, they can't. Okay, that's fine. That's your choice. That's your prerogative. It's just not mine. If our dog dies, unless maybe we got a living situation where maybe it isn't good to have a dog, I'll go rescue another one. I'll go find one just as dumb and lovable as this one that I know will protect my family.
All right.
So now I've gotten rid of your entire audience that loves animals. Sorry, dude.
With this show will be flagged by PETA.
Yeah. It's like he's so insensitive. He's so heartless. Yeah, whatever.
All right. Well, I'm not. I could start screen sharing dog pictures and stuff. Yeah, my parents.
I tell you, who's got a cool ass dog? Travis P11. His corgi. That dog is just adorable. He's called
Ammo Dog, right?
Yeah. His real name's Charlie, and Charlie is just I mean, if Travis said we can't keep the dog, will somebody come get him? I would drive all the way out to Nebraska to get this dog. He's so cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't think I'm going to screen share any dog pictures, but I do have a lot of them. I think I have like 13 or 15 like pictures on my refrigerator of like my parents' different dogs. So, all right. Any other Second Amendment prepping stuff we need to talk about before we wrap this show up?
Well, we're under attack all over the place, and some of the bills are really ridiculous, but
yeah, especially the 50% tax on ammo one. That I don't know if that one's going to pass.
Yeah, I don't think that'll fly, but have you noticed, though, that they have used taxes in one way or another to get things in the past? I mean, that's how they got Capone, right? He didn't pay his taxes.
Right, but this is just taxing. I mean, it's basically like a poll tax on exercising your franchise. It's like if they tax, they're unconstitutional. The Supreme Court ruled that poll taxes are unconstitutional. Like you can't charge someone a tax to go if they want to go vote, but that you can charge because they have a constitutional right to vote. But you can charge someone a tax if they want to exercise their Second Amendment right. Really, that's like a poll tax. It should be unconstitutional. But like I said earlier, the Supreme Court they've heard one Second Amendment case since and that was 8 years ago. They haven't heard any since Heller and McDonald because they don't want to.
I don't think there's any legal way to hold their feet to the fire, is there?
No, the only recourse we have is just ignore the government completely. And I'll give you an example that you're not going to like. Bitcoin. They say they want.
You want me to ignore the government by having some fictitious money?
What I'm saying is that they don't want what the IRS wants everybody to report all their Bitcoin, all their cryptocurrency assets of any kind. And they only have about 1% compliance. Only 1% of Americans that own Bitcoin have bothered to report it. And so because it's like they can go pound sand. I mean, truly, they're screwing over the fiat currency, and we have no motivation. I mean, we don't need the government. The government needs us. We don't need the government, and we don't need the banking system. I can be my own bank with my crypto wallet. I don't need them for anything, and we certainly don't need. I know that as a reloader, you don't need the government to supply yourself with ammunition, and you don't need to pay their tax. I mean, I guess if you buy a lot of, I guess they're going to tax powder, but it's just that we don't. The whole idea is that we don't need them; they need us, and we don't. And every time they pass some unconstitutional law about anything or some unconstitutional regulation, it's like they abdicate their sovereignty over us, and it's like we have no obligation to follow their laws because they're no longer sovereign because they've broken their compact with us by violating their own rules, and so that's as far as I mean. I'm talking about the 12th limitation of the I'll read it one more time, and then we'll close out the show. The 12th limitation of government, written by Andrew Fletcher, is...
The keyboard is for Depeche Mode.
The keyboard is for Depeche Mode. A very wise man said that if any king break in upon any of these conditions of government, he shall by the estates be declared to have forfeited the crown. So if you break the Constitution... And by any process that abuses your power, you're no longer sovereign over us. So go ahead and pass all the gun confiscation laws you want, because we're not subject to them, because you're no longer. I mean, you may have the title of senator of whatever state you're in, or something, or judge of whatever appellate court, or be on the Supreme Court, but break the Constitution, and you're not sovereign over us anymore. And everybody listening to this show, I just want you to know, you are free people. Keep that in the foremost. Unless you submit to slavery, which is like the whole thing about Passover, unless you submit to slavery, you are free people. So don't submit you were born free. Have the courage to live your life that way. This is Hawaii Volcano Squad on the Lock and Load Show on Gun Channels, and I really hope to see each and every one of you next week.